Is it going? I think it's going. I'll share the screen. You guys can all see that? Yeah? Yes? No? Yes? Cool. And Yuta, oh, okay. Yuta, just read out the chat messages because I know some people don't have working mics. But if anyone ever has a question, like during this presentation, please don't hesitate to unmute yourself and just ask it at like any time at all, because I'm absolutely okay with that. I don't care if you talk during class. Please just let me know. I want to get it clarified as soon as possible. So yes, and ask questions. So it's going to help you understand stuff better. Because if you don't understand something, just let me know. Okay, so today we're going to be learning about 2D sketches in basic part design. And I say part design because it's tactics to help keep your sketches nice and organized, and so that you can change it very easily and modify it as the CAD progresses. So our goals for today: get signed up with Onshape and everyone added to our team. Yes, step 1, finished, done, incredible. If this is anything like Tinkercad, then I am set. I've never used Tinkercad. Whoa. And then, but yeah, hopefully it's similar. And learn how to use sketching features needed for FRC and have fun. We're gonna have a lot of fun today because CAD is super fun. So to start off, we're going to, what is this? Okay, thank you, Ashton. To make a sketch, you're gonna wanna click on the sketch button or press the S key and select a sketch. Then you're gonna select a plane for your sketch to be sketched on. And when you start making parts, you can actually select the face of a part to be the plane that you want to sketch on. And then if you want to make the plane straight so it's easier to view, you can press N, and you can hide the plane diagram by pressing P. So let's do that. I actually already started a sketch, so let's, or did I? No, I didn't. Okay, so I want to do this on the front plane, so I select the front plane. I can press S and this little toolbar pops up. This is the sketch button, or I can go over here and press sketch. So now I'm pressing N so that it's N for normal, which is the view that you're looking at. And I can press P to make those planes go away. Then you have a sketch and it's open, and you can work with all these tools right here, or everything on this toolbar to make your CAD. And that was everything we went over on that slide. Cool. Did everyone get that? That makes sense? Cool. Okay, the next thing you're gonna do is have shapes and lines. You wanna form your sketches from the different shapes and lines on the toolbar. You can add dimensions to your parts and constraints, and when the sketch is fully constrained, the lines will turn black. You see here in this picture, I just made a rectangle. I didn't add any dimensions. It doesn't know how big the rectangle is, so it's blue because it's undefined. Here, the rectangle is defined because I have it dimensioned at 4 and 8. And actually, there's a constraint here because it's a center rectangle. It's constrained with a coinciding constraint to the center, the origin, which means that it can't move from that spot. Those 2 points have to be like in the same spot. So the origin is the only fixed point that you start off with in the CAD model that you have. I'll show you over here. This black dot right here. That's the only fixed thing that you start off with. That's like the middle of your diagram, I guess. So if I take a rectangle and I make it over here, even if I dimension it, and I just press D to do a dimension, if I dimension it here, it's still not technically constrained because it can still move around. But if I do a center rectangle, and I do it here, and then I add dimensions, let's make this a 5 by 10, it's fully constrained and it turns black. See, I can't move it now because it's constrained to the origin. Does that make sense to everyone? Yes? Okay. I'm gonna assume that everyone gets it. But if you ever have a question about this, put it in the chat and Yuta can read it out to me, or just ask it out loud, because I know Yuta's got my back, right? So cool. All right.
How do I make a shape, he says.
What was that?
Aston says, how do I make a shape?
How do you make a shape? Okay, actually that's a great question. I don't know if I specified that. All of these tools up here are all shapes that you can make. So it's pretty self-explanatory. So like you can make lines, and you're gonna see me use a lot of hotkeys because I'm very, very used to using hotkeys because they're one of the best parts of Onshape. They come native with the program. So if I'm just here and I press L and I don't actually click over here, that's because I'm using a hotkey. I'm not just a sorcerer that just made it happen. And then if you're sketching something and you don't want it to be sketched anymore, you can just press the escape key and then it goes away. See, there's also circles, arcs. There's actually 3 different kinds of arcs that we'll go over. Polygons, if you want to make a polygon, it's going to start you off with a hexagon. Don't worry about it. And you can change the number of sides that it has. I don't know what the maximum number is, but I think if you move your cursor out, it'll go more. And if you move it in, it'll become less. And the minimum is 3. And just make that go away. Splines and spline points, we pretty much never use those. And any other type of circle other than center, we pretty much never use. You'll use the center circle, just start it here, just make it as big as you want, and you can dimension it, right? Does everyone understand that process of like making the shape and then dimensioning it? Okay. That was the wrong button. Control. Okay, so I think I might have mentioned constraints. Constraints are not dimensions, which is pretty much what you need to know. They make shapes different relations. They give lines and shapes different relationships to each other, and they can be used in place of, they should be used in place of dimensions when applicable. So in general, which a part design rule is that you're going to want to, you're going to want to use constraints over dimensions when it's applicable. So, so like let's say that you have these 2 lines and you always want these lines to be the same length. Now, what you could do, excuse me, what you could do is dimension them both as 10 inches. But that would be extra work. If you want to change it later and you want one of them, and you want them to both be 11 inches, you have to change both dimensions. But if you just make it equal, then when you just change one of them, it changes both. Now, if you have different parts that you want to be at the same size, but you don't know if you always want them to be the same size, dimension them separately. But if you know they're always going to be the same size, such as like a hole that's repeated like a lot of times, then you can just make them all equal. And it makes your CAD a lot cleaner when you're not dimensioning everything separately. So is there something in the chat, Yuta? I think I see some messages.
Oh, Aston said that he wanted to look up some YouTube videos. So I told him Onshape tutorials exist.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, did anyone do any of the Onshape tutorials? I think I mentioned them last time, like that's an option that you can do if you wanted. But it's okay if you didn't. But if you did, you can flex that right now. That'd be super cool. So yeah, I'm going to show you a few of the constraints that we use a lot. So coincident is something that usually just naturally happens when you're CADing. So it may not seem like it, but when you click on a line and you put it away from the origin, the point at the end of this line and the origin are actually coinciding. So this line, you can't move it off of the origin. It's not going to go off of it. So nothing else about it is constrained, but it's constrained to that one point right there. Now, if you want to make it horizontal to the plane, it actually snaps right there. So you see the little thing showing up. It's like the bottom right of my cursor. That's showing that it's going to do a horizontal constraint when I set it, just like that. So now this actually can't move angle-wise. So if I make another line, this isn't constrained at all. I can move it anywhere. I can change the length. I can change the angle. It's not constrained at all. It's terrible. I hate it. Okay, so what I want to do, what's a constraint I can put on these to make them parallel? Parallel constraint. You see this right here? So you can actually do that with the hotkey of B. So I'll do that right now. And it makes them parallel. See, now I can't change the angle of the line. Now, what if I want these lines to start at the same spot? I can make these vertical. And this can't move anywhere other, and it'll show you the vertical constraint on there. It can't move. Now, if I want these to be the same length, I can use the equal constraint, or just E. So I can set it, click E, and they're equal. And then if I set a length, like 10, they'll both be 10, like I said before, right? And then the only other dimension I need to make sure that this other line is defined is to set a distance apart. So like 3, now the line is black, it's defined, it works, right? Does that make sense to everyone? That's good? Okay. If you guys don't say anything, I'm just going to assume you understand everything. So if you have any questions, please tell me. Okay, the next slide is construction lines. So all the lines you've been putting previously for all your shapes and lines, all that, that's going to be something that actually affects the extrusion. So when you extrude something, that turns it from 2D into 3D. These construction lines don't affect that at all. So these are just used for dimensions and reference, and you can use it as a mirroring. You can mirror about it. You can use it as like a circle reference if you want to, if you have like a bolt circle or something, which I'll show you later. But it's just important to know it doesn't affect the extrusion. If your sketch is made completely of construction lines, it won't extrude, it won't work. So I'll show you an example of something you can do with a construction line. So if I make a center point rectangle, and it's constrained to the origin with a coinciding relationship, I make this 10, and I make this 3. And then let's say I want a circle. Now, right here, I'm making the circle vertical to the origin, which is also the middle of the rectangle because it's a center point rectangle and I constrain it there. So now all I have to do is give this a diameter and a distance from the side. And you should notice that there's 2 different dimensions you can give for circles to lines, or from circles to other objects. You can give a center point dimension, or you can give a side point dimension. Now, SolidWorks didn't used to do this when we did it. When you click on the side, it would just do a center point dimension. And a lot of times we don't want that. So you would have to press Shift and click to get the side point dimension. Or maybe it wasn't Shift. I don't remember because I don't use SolidWorks anymore. But right now you can click on either of them, but you have to make sure to click the right one. So it's different for the different designs that you have. But for now, we're just going to do a center point dimension. So that's 1 inch from the center of the circle to the wall. This is defined because it's black. So now we can do a line, a construction line. I pressed L for the line, right? So I can make this vertical because it's in the center, and I'm giving it the vertical constraint. And then I'll set it down. That's a line, and I'll click on it and press Q. And you can tell it's construction because it's dashed instead of solid. So the Q hotkey is what's going to make it construction. I think it's also this button, but I almost never use the button. And actually, if you wanted, and that's just delete that I pressed to make the line go away. If you wanted, you can actually press it while you're sketching it, and that makes it go a lot faster. So what I can do is do a mirror now. So it just told me to select the line that you want it to be mirrored about, and now it says select entities to be mirrored. So I want to mirror the circle. So now the circle is always going to be the exact same as the circle on the right. So if I change this to 1 inch, it's also going to do it to the other side. If I change this to 1.5 inches, it's going to be the same on the other side. Right? Does everyone understand how to do that? If I asked you to do it, would you be able to do it? Yes?
Ashton says no.
Ashton says no.
And that's the only response. Semi,
Okay. So there's a little confusion. That's okay. I might have been going a little bit fast. Oh, Annie, you just did it. That's amazing. Incredible. Well, it is a little unfair because I did go over the presentation with you earlier, but you know, yeah, but that's great. Does anyone want to share what they're confused about here so I can explain that further? Or you want me to just do it again? Anyone? Bueller? No. Okay. Ashton says, my question will cover everything. I just don't know everything. I cannot tell if you're being serious or not. This is very hard for me. Okay, I'll just do it again so that it's easier to understand. So when I delete this, it actually leaves the circle here, but it's undefined. It's not constrained to anything, so it's just a wild circle, and we should kill it. So delete, it's gone. So I'll do another one. So I chose the circle shape, and there's a construction line right here. So I'm going to make this horizontal. The center of the circle is going to be horizontal to the origin right here, right? There's more in the chat. Click on this circle and press backspace. Oh, delete? Okay, I'm on Windows, so I just have a delete key. I am not as familiar with Macs. I think it's just delete.
they're just different names.
Okay, so it's like the one in the corner of your keyboard. I can't show it to you unless I bend my camera or something. No, that won't work. But yeah, is that what you were confused about, or the mirroring part? Okay. If I click on this, you can also delete sketch entity. That's another way of doing it. It's just slower, I guess. Does that make sense, Ashton? No? I will watch something later. Okay. Yeah. I'll just show you again to make sure. So if I have a circle and I put it there and I'm like, oh wait, I actually wanted another rectangle there, I can right click on it and this little thing pops up with a bunch of different options. And right here at the bottom, it says delete sketch entity. And the entity of the sketch that's referring to is the circle, because that's what you right-clicked on. So when you click on delete sketch entity, it'll disappear. Yeah. Did you click on the side of the circle? Not inside. Right. Yes, on the side of the circle, on the line that the circle goes around. That will delete it. Okay. Now does that make sense? Okay. Continue. Awesome. Do you guys want me to do the mirroring thing again? Or I'll work with you later. How about that? This might be a little bit difficult. But yeah, you see, I just did the thing that we did here, where we mirrored the circle on one side and moved it to the other side. Or it's not actually moving it, it's just making another one on the other side that perfectly mirrors the one on one side. Okay, then I'm going to do a Control F5. There we go. Patterns. These are really fun. You're going to love this. So it makes several sketch features constrained to be congruent and equally spaced. So when you do a linear pattern, you make one circle and you define it, and then you can create a pattern to go several in a row, and you can choose how many you want. That's what this is here, and you can choose how much they're spaced, and that's how much each of them are going to be spaced. So I'll do a pattern. Let's try it on here. I'm going to get rid of this. Right click, delete sketch entity. Okay, circle. See, I made it horizontal to the side. I'm going to give it a diameter. Let's make it 1 inch. And I'm going to give it a side dimension from the center of the circle to the side. So now it's fully defined. You can see that, right? So I'm going to go up here to linear patterns, or sorry, to patterns actually, and you can do linear. And I'll click on that. And right now it's only spacing it by 1 inch. Maybe I want to do it by 2 inches. Yeah? But right now it only gives me 3. So maybe I want 5 instead. So that's what this key does. And then it also actually patterns in the other direction, but you can change this to whatever you want, but it'll usually just go off there. I keep it at 1 when it's just one line. And you can also select multiple circles for linear patterning. So yeah, and then you're going to click to confirm it, and they're all defined because this one is defined, right? And you still have this. So if you want to change this, like whenever, like if I want to change it back to 1.5, it'll change the linear pattern. Does that make sense? It's all good? Okay, I'm going to move on. Oh, and a circular pattern. I can do a circular pattern too, just for demonstrations purposes. Okay. Circle. And let's define the circle. The circle is constrained to the origin. Let's make it 15 inches. Let's have a construction line. Remember when we learned that? And then let's have a line, another circle on this construction line. And let's make it, and this is to the top of the circle that it's dimensioning. Let's make it 2 inches. And let's make this 0.75 inches. So now we have a circle there. What's this? Okay. Okay. So now if you want to do a circular pattern, when you click on the circular pattern, you saw how we got to that, you click this down arrow, and you circular, you're going to click on this. Oh, I didn't. Okay. and it's going to give you a circular pattern. So you can change the number of degrees that it goes around. So if I only want this to pattern up to 90 degrees, it'll space them out as much. It'll space them out in equal amounts of degrees per space between the circle. But right now would be 240, right? So this is the number of circles that it does. So if I wanted 6 circles, then it would change to 300. When you don't touch this initially, like I did, it'll just change automatically. But other than that, you don't really have to touch this if you want it to go all the way around. But again, if I wanted this just to go halfway around, I would put it at 180 degrees, and then it only patterns halfway around the circle. But it's still 6 circles that are patterned. All right? And this isn't defined. Right. This isn't defined because when you change it, it doesn't automatically constrain it. So I can make these, I can press I for coincident, and it just gave me an error. That probably wasn't right. Maybe perpendicular then. Yeah. B for perpendicular, and then I for, funny. Okay. I'm not sure what it's doing. No? Okay, well, I'll just show you how to do like a normal one. So just like that, it makes it. But you usually just have to constrain this somewhere because it doesn't automatically constrain the center of the circular pattern that you make. That time it worked. I don't know why it didn't work the last time, but that's okay. But yeah, when you make the circular pattern, you have to constrain it. And usually you can just drag it over and it starts on the center because that's where you're putting the circle. But I think it'll usually go over to the origin. But you can play around with those and learn about it more. Cool. Are there any questions on that? Does everyone understand that? Yeah? Cool. Okay, I'm going to keep going then. Now it's time for a quiz. Remember when I told you that you want to keep the number of dimensions to a minimum? Well, how would you use constraints to minimize the number of dimensions in this CAD that I've made here, this sketch? So this is 4 lines, and it actually makes a rectangle. So these 2 lines are the same length. These 2 lines are the same length because they're dimension. And these 2 circles are the same distance away from the side here, as this one, and they're the same diameter as well. So how would I make this better? Does anyone want to try? There's multiple answers here, so a lot of different stuff. So yeah, just I think stuff in the chat. Ashton says, I have absolutely no idea. Thank you, Ashton.
Well, to that question, Marcus said mirror, but that's about it.
Marcus said mirror. Yes, that is something you can do. That's a great job. So if I put a construction line here, I can mirror this circle across, and it would be the same distance. You figured out how to make a circle. That's good. Ashton, I can help you out with that a little bit later if you want. Okay, there's a few other things I can do to make it better. Anyone at all? I'm gonna mute my group chat because it is being very noisy right now. Anyone else? Yuta, what could I do to make this better?
You can, so for the sides of the pipe, you can make them equal to half the amount of dimensions you need.
Right, I can make these two lines equal, and I can make these two lines equal.
And also you can probably make construction lines connecting the circles to the pipe, like vertically and horizontally. And you can probably dimension one of them and make all of them equal.
Right, I can make a construction line, or I can make a constraint to make this vertical, or these two, or if this is mirrored, like Marcus said, then yes, we can make this vertical, so we wouldn't need this dimension right here. And we would probably still need to keep this one. But if you also see, I have this 90-degree constraint here because I made this out of 4 lines. So if I wanted, I can make these 2 lines parallel and these 2 lines parallel to each other and then constrain them normally and make 2 of these lines perpendicular. Or, an even better way, I could just make a rectangle, which is already a shape that it gives you, which would be so much better, right? But yeah, so that's kind of how you would want to minimize the number of dimensions, but you kind of understand how this isn't as effective of a way to make sketches as it would be if you implemented all those other different kinds, right? All right, does anyone have any questions about why would we change those things? No? Cool. Why did I just do that? All right, now I'm going to do a demonstration on how to sketch one of these. I don't really know what this is, but it looks similar to some of the stuff that we do sometimes. So I'm going to show you how to do it. And then, a little sneak peek, you're going to try some of this stuff. So you're going to give that a try. And I have both of those already counted out if you need help with it. But I will show you how to do this. So, and also I just want you to be able to read these like sketch diagrams because they're pretty common and a lot of them look similar to this. And if you want to sketch like mounting holes for something, you're going to kind of need to know how to read these. So let's delete this. Okay, what do we see here? So there's a circle in the middle, right? And it has a diameter of 8.4. I'm going to guess that, I'm going to put this in inches. It's probably in millimeters, but you know, it is what it is. Because I don't really want to change my thing right now. And I'll dimension it with the D key. And this was 8.4, right? And I'm going to leave this as a solid line and not construction because this is a hole in here, right? Then what I'm going to want to do next is I can make the circle that makes these curves on this line. You could also do a sketch fillet, but I'm going to have you guys practicing with construction lines today. It's not just lines that you can use for construction either. So if I'm making a circle and I press Q, that's a construction circle. And it works the same as a construction line because it doesn't affect the output or the extrusion, but it still works as a dimensioning tool. So this was a radius of 8. So I'll put the diameter as 16. You have it there. And then you have 2 holes, or right, 2 holes, and this is a diameter of 2. It would be an M2 bolt. So I'm going to prepare for that by making a construction line. And you see I'm making this vertical to the origin because I want it to go right across. That construction line is there. And then I'll make a real circle, not a construction circle, over here, right? And I think it was 2 millimeters that I read. See, this little 0 with a slash through it, I think is the diameter notation. I'm pretty sure. So this 2 times 2 diameter refers to this circle and this circle. I'm pretty sure, yeah. So then we're going to want to draw a construction circle around it for the curve around the circle. And it said it was a radius of 2, so I'm going to set the diameter to 4. You see, it says 2 times R2. So that's referring to the radius of this fillet and the radius of this fillet. That's the 2 times part, right? So then what I can do, does it say, yeah, okay, 32 inches apart. So if I know those are 32 inches apart, then I can say that it is 16 inches to the center. 16 times 2 is 32, right? I'm not doing math wrong. I'm pretty sure. Okay. So then, because we made this mirror here, I can mirror this over. I can select this as the mirror line and select these two as the objects to be mirrored. And then if I wanted, I can put a dimension here and show that these are 32 inches apart. Now, this dimension won't be driving, which is what they call it when it's the dimension that sets the distance. It's going to be driven. So I can't change this actually, because if I do, it'll give you an error because this is already dimensioned here as 16 and this is mirrored. So if I change this, then that would go against this dimension, which is driving. Does that make sense? Okay, I'll just get rid of that because we don't need it. But yeah, we're just ensuring that these are 32 inches apart. Okay. The next thing we have is 2 curves that are made of, and you know what makes curves? Is circles. And then these 6-inch like slots, I guess you would call them. I'm not really sure what this part is. I just kind of took it from Google Images. But the next thing you would want to do is make 2 construction circles, just like that. And then you can see the radius of the slots. So one is 10 and one is 11. So you're going to make it be 20 and 22. And then 22, right? And then you have 2 6-inch. These are 6 inches tall. So what you're going to want to do is put in lines that start somewhere up here. We'll define them later and make sure it's horizontal because we know that these are horizontal to the origin. These are going to be construction also. Notice that it's also not defined yet. Okay. And did I make this horizontal? I did. Okay. And then we're going to dimension the space between these two to be 6 inches because we know that this spot is 6 inches right here. Is there a chat message? Never mind. I don't know how to make a circle. Oh. Okay. So, I don't know if it explicitly says. No, okay. So you can assume that because it gives you a radius, it's around the same circle. So you're going to assume that these are centered right here. So I'm on the Zoom tab. Okay. So yeah, I know this is starting to look kind of like scary, I guess. Ooh, you guys want to know a little geometry trick? So notice how these lines are both changing as I move them up and down the circle because the ends of the lines are constrained to the construction line, the construction circles, right? Pretty cool, right? So if I want to make sure that these are centered, you know that the only two spots where they're centered is when they're equal, or the only two spots where they're centered are going to make these two lines of equal length. So if I select these and select the equal function, it's going to be centered, right? So now I'm going to show you a little bit, some stuff about arcs, because you're going to need arcs to finish this off. And I'll start off with the, you're going to want the center point arc. So pretty much the center point arc is going to make a section of whatever circle you have. So I can make the center point arc here, and it would make it like that, but I want it to be the same as the construction line, but not the whole construction line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come out here to that spot, so it's constrained there, and put it there. So now that's a real line. I'm going to do another one from here to here, and then I'm going to do a line from here to here, and a line from here to here. Now, I could just mirror this onto the other side with this same mirror line. That would be a bit of a pain because I kind of have to select the real, the defined line, which is underneath the construction line. So I would have to go in here and then select other, and then select that spot for each different selection thing. So I'm just going to do it on the same thing on the other side, which is okay because I'm not actually making any dimensions. It's still constraints. It's just not a mirror. Yep. And then I'm going to come in here with lines and lines. And then it makes this gray area that's defined. And you know it's defined because these are black lines and you have everything surrounded. Cool. Now the only thing left to do is just surround it all in lines. So make sure it's an enclosed structure. So this is the line, this is the construction that we made here for the big part of the circle. It's like the circle that's kind of driving this whole thing. So I'll show you now how to use a tangent constraint. If you guys have, I'm assuming you haven't taken calculus, but a tangent line is a line that's going to have the same slope as the graph at one point. So pretty much what it's going to do is only touch the circle at one point. Like you see here, it touches here, but it also touches here because the tangent constraint isn't applied. I think it automatically did it here because you see like the little circle and thing. So I'm going to select the line and select this and select the circle and then select tangent, which is going to make it constrained so that it only touches at one point. And if you zoom in enough, you can see that that's the only spot that it touches. And it's a little off, but it is touching it there. So that you know that this line is defined because it has an exact length of the two tangent spots on this, where this is the only position it can be in where it's tangent to both circles. And then you're just going to want to do that for all of them. So here, here, you're just coming here, and then T is the hotkey for tangent, and I can do it on both sides. And you guys are going to get really used to this when you start making gearboxes, which is one of my favorite things to do. And you're just going to make all that. And here's the last one. And here. So we have that all done, but there's still one problem. It's not grayed out. The lines aren't, it's not a complete object. Did I go over that? Did I? Okay. So if this is a filled object, the inside of it is going to be gray. So like this circle is filled, so it's gray. This slot here is filled. It's surrounded by defined lines, so it's gray. These circles, gray. But this area here is partially surrounded by a line that is defined. But this area right here, this curve, isn't defined, so it's not contained. But what we can do is use the center point arcs to fill it up here and here, and then here. And then once I do this one, it's going to turn gray, just like that. So it's a filled object. And that's this thing now. All right. Did everyone understand that? How to do those things? I feel like I went kind of fast on that. So if you don't understand something, please ask. No? Okay. Then I guess we're a very, I guess you're all following along then. It's great. Cool. Now it's your turn. And you guys are going to try to make these things. And if you go into Teams, and then you go to FRC 2813, and then go to Training, and then Hardware Design Class Demonstrations 2020, I actually have this one already done. I did it before the class. And I have, this part right here is this sketch. And I think I made, yeah. And then in Part Studio 2, right, this right here is going to be this sketch. And then I think I made the other one, if I go back in this one, right here. So this is the other thing. So to show you a little bit more, this is actually something that we're going to use like pretty often. I don't think the holes are in the exact alignment that we would use, but this right here is the center bearing block mounting that we use for gearboxes. So this isn't the last you're going to see of this one. So I'm going to stop recording, I think. I'm going to stop sharing for a second, and then I'm going to stop recording, and then